let's talk about the topic of the week. Where is my thing? So here's the irony. And I know I've mentioned this before. I work with a content coach, marketing strategist, all of those words. And we have a call once a quarter where we plan out all of my videos and all of the live topics a quarter in advance. So this topic has been chosen since like the second week of March when we had our Q2 call. And then a couple of weeks ago, and maybe even, no, obviously last week I didn't have a live. I don't think it was the last one. I think it was 2 lives ago. Somebody asked me kind of this question is, how has your planning changed, or how is your, goal setting or your life changed since having a baby? And my response to that question was like, I don't know if I feel qualified to answer this because it's only been however long. And I feel like I'm constantly learning and constantly changing. And so many of you showed up in the comments and said, that will always be the case. You will always be constantly learning and changing as your baby grows, even as they roll into later years, even into adulthood, right? As you potentially add more children, like all of those things, you're still going to be learning and growing. Don't let that minimize what you have learned in the last 8 months. And then as I was prepping for May and I saw this topic, I was like, oh my gosh, I'd already planned to talk about it. So I'm very excited to share today. I have 5 things to talk about, 5 things that really jump out at me as things that have changed since I had a baby. Now, as of today, she is 8 months old. Look at this cute picture from a week ago. Oh my God, I can't. Although it's so funny because my plan for today. So if you are a member of the community, you know this. Most days, I will take a picture of my daily planner for the day, and post it in the community Facebook group. Like I do that pretty much every day. And if nobody probably read in depth my to-do list for today, I wrote 7-month photos on today's plan. And then I was like going into her room to pick out the little circle thing that says 8 months. And I knew she was 8 months old. Picked 8 months old and did the whole thing, took the pictures, and then went back to my planner to check it off and saw that it said 7 months. And I was like, oops, I just took a month away. I think I'm in denial that she is already 8 months old. I just don't understand. Okay. So she is 8 months old. And so the reminder, like I said, is that I'm still learning. I am still learning. But what I'm going to share today are 5 things that I put here. Some of these I knew. Let's be real. All of these I knew. All 5 of these I knew were true. I knew they were true. But having a baby has absolutely solidified them and reminded me how true they are, and have therefore impacted how I plan my life, my goals, my time, etc. Number 1, routines can and will change. And again, I feel like I said this before I had a baby, right? Your routines can and will develop over time. They will change with your life. They change faster with a baby. And so it's okay to have a routine that you're like, this is my routine for the next 3 weeks. This is what I can commit to. And then knowing that in 3 weeks, it's probably going to change again, or maybe even less than 3 weeks, depending on how old your baby is and how quickly they're developing and changing, or between your life and the seasons, right? Like now the weather is so beautiful. I am dying to be done with work at a certain hour so I can go enjoy the outside with my little girl, and her nap schedule is different, right? So based on her nap schedule and the weather, now our routine looks totally different. And again, I knew this before. I knew this, but it really leaning into it being okay and being okay with your routine changing. And the thing I've been trying to also lean into is if it's working, you don't need to change it. But if it's not working, what is not working and how can we adjust that? And whether it's, getting up a little bit earlier or the thing I was about to say is a good example for the next one, so I don't want to say it. But just being open to adjustments. And when I say routines here, I don't even necessarily mean the classic AM routine and PM routine. And that's definitely part of it. And I shared this on Instagram earlier this week. I posted a morning routine video a week ago, literally a week ago today, that I filmed about a month ago. It's already changed. Y'all, my morning routine's already changed, which is one of the reasons why I hesitate filming videos like that, because it's like, yeah, this was my morning routine at this point in time, and it's already different based on the other things that have changed around us. My goals, her schedule, it's the seasons, like, etc. So it is just so, I don't know if ironic is the right word, but routine has this connotation that it has to be the same every single day and it has to be consistent. And I'm here to remind you that it does not. And your routine can and likely will change regardless of whether or not you have a child. Here's the one that I know I said this on a live or a call or somewhere before that really, really, really did not sink in until I had a baby. And that is that small amounts add up. So I've always told you to break down your goals into the smallest amount of time that you can fit into your schedule. And so in the past, for me, my personal goals, I wouldn't break down much more than like an hour chunk, because I could find hour chunks of time. My work goals, I broke them down into 30-minute chunks because I could find 30-minute chunks of time. Now I break things down like 15 minutes ideal, but right before this live, I even took 5 minutes. Like, I came in here to get all set up and I got everything prepped. I took the thumbnail picture. I did all the things, and I still had, it was 11:51. And I was like, you still have 9 minutes before this starts. In prior versions of me, and don't get me wrong, if this is how you want to spend those 9 minutes, spend those 9 minutes. Ironically, that we're talking about rest in the community this month. I would have spent those 9 minutes scrolling my phone. If I was really on top of things, I would have had my Kindle here and spent that 9 minutes reading. But instead, I did 8-ish minutes of work. I picked something off my list for later this afternoon and said, can I get 8 minutes ahead on one of these things? And that's what I did. Did I finish it? No, because I assumed that task was going to take me 30 minutes, not 8. But I got through, which is ironic because it's 4 things. And I got through one of the 4 that I had scheduled 30 minutes for. It's a pretty good estimate. So, but the reminder here is that those small amounts add up. And that really, I think the change is that I need to take advantage of them, because that 8 minutes while I was already in my office in work mode, somebody has my daughter, etc., is better spent on work than 8 minutes at the end of the evening. When she goes to bed, I don't want to be spending those 8 minutes doing work. I don't want to be spending 8 minutes I would rather relax at that point, right? So trying to take those little small pockets of time. She's occupied with a toy. Can I do 5 minutes of a tidy of a room? She slept a little longer than I expect. Can I get one thing done off my list so that I'm not worried about that once she wakes up, right? Focusing on those small little pockets of time. And again, if you don't have kids, you don't necessarily have to worry about this, but it can make a difference if you take advantage of those little small pockets of time instead of only ever looking for the giant chunks of time. I think that's really the learning thing for me, is that in the past, I always looked for those giant chunks of time, and more often than not, I could find them. And so it was fine to wait until I had these big giant pockets. Those are rare nowadays. So I have to take advantage of the small amounts, and it really does add up over time. Number 3 is know what your non-negotiables are. Yes, I've always had to prioritize, right? Prioritizing has always had to be a thing. I can't do everything. I can't do everything and anything that I want. I have to prioritize. But now I really have to prioritize. And so I have to know, when it comes to everything, what are the non-negotiables with my AM routine? What are the things that I have to do in the morning, to either because I have to, like feed cat, or I have to do because I need to feel that way? Knowing what my non-negotiables are. When it comes to work, what are the non-negotiables for the day? What are the things that I have to get to today? And what are the things that would be nice to get to today, this week, this month, all of the things. And being more realistic about them maybe, but then also like not doing them, I guess, too, is part of it. Like it's so funny because there are some things I'm trying to think if I want to share this example. There's some things that in the past I've been very, not bad is the right word, but just inconsistent with doing. And now I'm almost more consistent, even though I have less time, because to me, it's a non-negotiable to make me feel better. Here's an example I'm comfortable sharing. Tidying up certain rooms of the house. Prior versions of me would deprioritize tidying and picking up at the end of the day. I pick up different rooms at different times of day. I talked about this in a vlog months ago, and it's still very true. I don't do a full tidy of our whole apartment. That's speaking of small chunks, like that's a big chunk of time. So instead, I tidy up each room at different points in the day as part of different routines. But to me, those are non-negotiables now because there's so much going on and also so much more stuff. Now that there's a baby, that tidying up makes such a difference on my mental capacity that I prioritize it, and it's a non-negotiable. Whereas in the past, if the living room wasn't tidy, I tidy the living room in the morning here now, but like if the living room wasn't tidy, sometimes I would just be like, man, forget it. Like, I don't care. I can just shut my office door and it's fine. But like 9 times out of 10, I'm going to spend time in the living room at some point today with my daughter. And I want that living room to be tidy and I want it to feel nice. Tidying the bedroom, tidying the bathroom, tidying the kitchen. Like, I make that a priority when I didn't before. So I feel like that, but it makes a difference. And so I wonder if I had prioritized that more in the past, if that would have made a difference. But that's something that I feel like I have changed, is know the non-negotiables and following through on them. Okay. Number 4, y'all, it is okay to ask for and accept help. The people in your life who love you, they want to help. They want to be there for you. And they want to they want to do what they can. So I have always struggled to be somebody who was bad at asking for help or even saying, yes, thank you for helping me with that when they offered. And having a baby has made it so like, no, you don't have a choice. You need to ask for help, especially in those first couple of weeks. Like, you physically can't do things. And so I think I just learned it then and have continued to roll through it. And some of this is my spouse, my partner, my husband, he asking and accepting his help. I don't need to do everything. Is he going to do it exactly the way I did it? No, but I can't and don't need to do everything. My family, my mom, my sister, asking and accepting their help. And then also in business, I talked about this in my last favorites video. I hired a VA to go into maternity leave. It was really more to do I hired her to do some small things that I knew needed to continue on maternity leave, but I didn't want to have to do them. And since then, I have added so many other things on her list that I don't have to do. Like, I don't have to be doing those things. She can do them. And yes, I understand that type of help costs money, but is my time better spent doing those things in my business or with my daughter and raising her and caring for her? And so it is okay to have other people do things. You don't need to do it all. And whether that is free help or paid help, whether you're struggling to just let it go, whether you're struggling to ask, if it's people who care about you, yes, they could still say no, but my guess, the example I always give is think if it was reversed. If somebody just had a big life change and they asked for your help with something, like, wouldn't you want to say yes? Wouldn't you want to help them? Like, it's the same when you're on the receiving end. All right. And the last one is kind of more abstract, and that is to have a really good why. And I, again, have always known this, right? We need a good why. And when Lila came into this world, I basically got the world's greatest why. She inspires me to do so many things, to be the best me all the time. And I don't mean this to get like super sappy, but my point is that it is so much easier. It's not always easy. It's easier to do the hard things, to get out of bed, to get on the bike, to drink the water, to cook the vegetables, to save the money, to all the things when I know that it is for her, essentially. And so just don't overlook the why as this like arbitrary, like, no, I don't need a why just because I want to. That's a good enough why. And it might be for you for some goals, but for some goals, it might not be enough. And that's when I encourage you to do the but why exercise. Dig deeper and ask yourself, but why? But why is that goal important to me? And know that, like, know what the why is before you decide to jump in. Because it really has made things so much. Again, I don't like to use the word easier because it doesn't mean that it's easy all the time, but it's easier than it was before because it's worth it to me. So that's to find your why for your goals, as cheesy as that sounds.